A poor girl in a wheelchair is alone in the schoolyard. When a young billionaire arrives to make a donation, she says, "No one wants to play with me. My dad said, I get in the way." He hears this, begins to cry, and what happens next is unbelievable. The sounds of recess exploded across the Willowbrook Elementary schoolyard. Joyful shouts, laughter, and the squeak of sneakers on asphalt created a chaotic symphony echoing between the red brick walls. It was one of those perfect September days when the sun still held summer's warmth, but the wind already whispered promises of autumn. Children darted everywhere, organizing impromptu games. The yard buzzed with pure energy, that energy only children can produce, as if they could convert air into joy. In the midst of all this burst of life, there was one completely silent corner. Lily was there, as always. Her small pink wheelchair was positioned under the shade of an oak tree, far enough from the commotion not to bother anyone, but close enough to observe every movement, every laugh, every game she was never a part of. She hugged a doll that had clearly seen much better days. Its blonde hair was frayed and tangled, with some strands missing. The blue dress, which must have once been vibrant and was now faded and torn. One of the doll's arms dangled loosely, held only by a few stubborn threads. At 4 years old, Lily had already learned a cruel lesson. Recess meant 30 minutes of absolute solitude. 30 minutes watching other children enjoy themselves in ways that seemed impossible for her. 30 minutes hugging her only companion, pretending she didn't care. "Clara, do you think anyone will talk to us today?" she whispered to the doll, adjusting the worn dress. Naturally, Clara didn't answer, but Lily had learned to imagine the responses, creating entire conversations in her head. It was easier that way. At least Clara never rejected her, never ran away, never made that uncomfortable face other children did. "Let's play hide and seek," a curly-haired girl shouted. "I want to count first," another replied. Lily hugged Clara tighter, feeling that familiar pang in her heart. She already knew how this scene would unfold. The children would scatter across the yard, find hiding spots, laugh when discovered, and not once would they look in the direction of the girl under the tree. It was as if she were invisible, a shadow in the corner of the yard, as much a part of the landscape as the oak tree itself. "It's okay, Clara," she murmured. "First we have each other, right?" Across the schoolyard walked a man who clearly didn't belong in that setting. Nathan Cross wore a suit that cost more than many teachers, annual salaries, Italian leather shoes that gleamed even in the shade, and carried a watch that could pay for several children's college tuition there. Beside him, Principal Mrs. Peterson tried to keep pace, constantly adjusting her slipping glasses. She was visibly nervous. It wasn't every day a billionaire personally visited small Willowbrook Elementary. "Mr. Cross, I cannot express how grateful we are for your generosity," she said for the third time. "Note the children have never received such a significant donation." "Please, just call me Nathan," he replied, watching the children play. "And you don't need to thank me. Everyone deserves a little joy in life." Nathan Cross was only 28, but his tech company had already revolutionized how people communicated. $3 billion in the bank, a penthouse in Manhattan, cars most people only saw in movies. He had everything money could buy. But at that moment, carrying 2 enormous boxes of toys, he felt more nervous than in any business meeting. "The children will be ecstatic," Mrs. Peterson continued. "And many of them have never received anything new." It was his first visit to a school since graduating, over a decade ago. The invitation had come through his foundation, a simple request for toy donations for underprivileged children. He could have just sent the money, as he did with most causes. But something had motivated him to come in person. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the boredom of a life where any problem could be solved with money. Or perhaps it was something deeper, a need to reconnect with a simplicity he had lost on his way to success. The children prepared drawings and cards, Mrs. Peterson said. Nathan was about to reply when something caught his attention. In the corner of the yard under the oak tree, a very small girl sat completely alone. She wore a yellow dress that had been washed so many times the color was almost unrecognizable, white knee-high socks, and her brown hair was tied in 2 braids that swayed gently as she moved to whisper something to the doll in her arms. But it wasn't the worn dress, nor the socks, nor the braids that made Nathan stop. It was the absolute solitude emanating from that small figure. It was a solitude he recognized. Nathan had grown up in a 40-room mansion, where the echo of his own footsteps was his only company. He knew what it was like to be surrounded by people and still feel utterly alone. "Who is that girl?" he asked, pointing discreetly. Mrs. Peterson followed his gaze and her face softened. "Oh, that's our little Lily. Poor dear. What happened to her? She doesn't have many friends here at school." "Why?" "Children can sometimes be difficult, Mr. Cross. They don't know how to interact with someone different. And her father is going through a tough time." Nathan watched Lily quietly converse with her doll. She smiled at the toy, as if hearing fascinating answers, nodded as if agreeing with some observation, chuckled softly, as if the doll had told a joke. There was something pure about that moment, a child creating her own joy in the midst of isolation. It was touching and devastating at the same time. "I'm going to talk to her," he said, handing the boxes to Mrs. Peterson. "Mr. Cross, perhaps it's best not to." "It's fine. I just want to say hello." Nathan began to walk, and each step took him further from the world of business, bringing him closer to something he had forgotten, the simplicity of a child. Lily was in the middle of a conversation with Clara when she noticed a shadow approaching. She looked up and saw a tall man walking towards her. For a moment, she felt afraid. Adults usually meant trouble. But there was something different about this man. He didn't have the tired expression of teachers, nor the hurried pace of other children's parents. His eyes were kind, and he walked slowly, as if not wanting to startle her. Nathan stopped a few feet away and offered his best smile. "Hi." Lily tilted her head, curious but cautious. "Hi," she replied softly. "May I sit here near you?" he asked, pointing to the ground. She studied his face for a moment, trying to decipher his intentions, then nodded. "Yes." Nathan crouched first, then sat completely on the ground, dirtying his expensive suit without showing concern. He was at Lily's eye level. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," she replied, still whispering. "Lily is a very beautiful name, like a flower." She smiled for the first time, small and shy but genuine. "And you?" "Nathan." "Nice to meet you, Lily." "Nice to meet you," she murmured, looking at the doll. "And this is Clara. She's my best friend." "Nice to meet you too, Clara," Nathan said, extending his hand to greet the doll. The gesture made Lily laugh, a sweet sound like music. "She said she liked you very much," Lily solemnly informed him. "Oh, really? And how do you know?" "Because I know. We talk about everything." Nathan felt something tighten in his chest. "Do you two always stay here during recess?" Lily's smile disappeared. She lowered her eyes and hugged Clara tighter. "No one wants to play with me," she said, the words coming out as a broken whisper. The words hit Nathan like a punch. He had faced the brutal competition of business, the falsehood of self-serving people, the coldness of competitors, but nothing compared to the devastating honesty of a 4-year-old saying no one wanted to play with her. "Why do you think that, Lily?" he asked softly. Lily hesitated, her eyes filling with tears she tried to hold back. She looked at the other children playing, then back at Nathan. "My dad said I get in the way," she finally whispered. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Nathan felt as if the world had stopped. All his wealth, all his successes seemed insignificant before the pure pain in that little girl's eyes. He didn't know what to say. There was no course that taught how to comfort a heartbroken child. There was no business strategy to heal wounds left by cruel words. So, Nathan did the only thing that seemed right. He sat more comfortably on the ground, crossing his legs, staying completely at Lily's height. "You know what, Lily? Sometimes people don't know how to be friends. But that doesn't mean you get in the way, not at all." Lily looked at him curiously, still hugging Clara, but there was a spark of hope in her eyes. "You seem like a really nice girl, and Clara seems amazing too." "Really?" she asked, her eyes shining. "Really? Can I be your friend?" The smile that spread across Lily's face was like the sunrise, slow but capable of illuminating everything around her. "You really want to play with me?" "I do." "What do you two like to do?" "We like to pretend we're at a tea party, or that we're princesses, or that we're flying through the sky." "Flying?" Nathan asked, intrigued. "Yes. Clara loves to fly. She always tells me about the clouds and the birds and how beautiful it is up there." Nathan felt his heart ache. "And you, Lily? Do you like to fly?" Lily looked at her legs, then at her wheelchair, then at Nathan. "I fly with her. In my imagination. It's the best kind of flying." At that moment, Nathan Cross, the man who had built an empire, who had transformed ideas into billions, who had conquered everything the world considered important, realized he had never found anything as valuable as the pure imagination of a child. "Then let's fly together," he said, standing up. "Can you teach me?" Lily laughed, louder this time. "You don't know how to fly?" "Not a clue. I'll need a very good teacher. I can teach you. First, you close your eyes and imagine you're floating." And so, in the middle of the Willowbrook schoolyard, a billionaire learned to fly with a 4-year-old girl and her worn doll. They closed their eyes and stretched out their arms, imagining clouds and blue sky and places where no one was ever alone. When Lily opened her eyes, Nathan was still there, arms outstretched and a genuine smile. "Thank you for playing with me," she said, her voice full of gratitude. Nathan felt something shifting within him, a connection that had nothing to do with money or power. It was something simpler and more complex than any deal he had ever closed. "Thank you for teaching me to fly, Lily." The bell for the end of recess echoed across the yard, and the other children began to run towards the building. Nathan watched Lily adjust Clara on her lap and maneuver her chair with impressive skill. "Are you coming back?" she asked before rolling away, vulnerability in the question. Nathan looked at that extraordinary girl, with her faded yellow dress, her swaying braids, her eyes full of cautious hope, and knew his life had changed forever. "Fate will," he replied without hesitation. "I promise." And for the first time in a long time, Nathan Cross made a promise he knew he would keep, not out of obligation or strategy, but because he had found something he didn't know he was looking for. As Lily rolled away, Nathan remained under the oak tree, feeling that something fundamental had changed within him. He had come to donate toys, but he ended up gaining something infinitely more valuable: the memory of what it was like to be a child, and the certainty that some connections are worth more than all the money in the world. Nathan hadn't slept well the night before. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lily's face, those big eyes full of sadness when she said no one wanted to play with her, the shy smile that appeared when he sat on the ground to talk, the way she hugged Clara as if the doll were her only protection in the world. By 6 in the morning, he was already up having coffee and planning his day. But instead of thinking about meetings or investments, his mind was completely focused on one thing: finding the perfect gift for a 4-year-old girl who had touched his heart in a way he couldn't explain. Nathan left home earlier than usual and drove to the best toy store in Manhattan. The place was just opening when he arrived, and the saleswoman seemed surprised to see a man in a suit entering the first minute of business. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" she asked, still organizing some items on the counter. "I'm looking for a very special doll," Nathan said, and realized how strange those words sounded coming from his mouth. "It's for a 4-year-old girl." "Of course, we have an entire section dedicated to dolls. Do you have any specific preferences?" Nathan thought for a moment. "She needs to have brown hair and a dress, lilac, perhaps, something that looks special but not intimidating." The saleswoman guided him to an area filled with dolls of all types and sizes. Nathan observed each one carefully, trying to imagine which one Lily would choose if she could. He wanted something that was different from Clara, not to replace her, but to be her companion. After examining dozens of options, his eyes landed on a doll that seemed perfect. She had curly brown hair that shimmered softly under the store lights, large, expressive eyes, and wore a lilac dress with small white lace details. It wasn't overly elaborate, but there was something special about her, a quality Nathan couldn't define, but which immediately made him think of Lily. "This one," he said, pointing. "This one is perfect." The saleswoman smiled. "Excellent choice. This doll is part of our premium line. She has articulated joints that allow for various poses, removable clothes, and even comes with some extra accessories. Great. Can you gift wrap it specially? It's a very important present. While waiting for the wrapping to be ready, Nathan found himself imagining Lily's reaction. Would she be happy? Would she find the doll pretty? What if she preferred to just keep Clara? The anxiety he felt was completely new to him. He had never worried so much about someone's reaction to a gift. An hour later, Nathan was parking in the same spot as yesterday in front of Willowbrook Elementary. The carefully wrapped gift was on the passenger seat, and he picked it up with the same care he would use for something extremely fragile. Recess hadn't started yet, so Nathan decided to wait at the reception. Mrs. Peterson appeared a few minutes later, looking surprised but visibly pleased to see him again. "Mr. Cross, what a pleasant surprise. We didn't expect to see you again so soon." "Nathan, please," he corrected automatically. "I brought something for Lily. I hope you don't mind." The principal's eyes lit up when she saw the package in his hands. "Of course I don't mind. What a lovely gesture. I'm sure she'll be delighted. Can I wait until recess to give it to her?" "Of course. You can wait in my office if you like." Nathan shook his head. "I prefer to wait right here, if it's not a problem. I want to see her when she comes out to the yard." Mrs. Peterson smiled understandingly. "Of course. By the way, yesterday afternoon, Lily wouldn't stop talking about you to her teacher, Miss Sarah. She was radiant. It's been a long time since we've seen her so excited." These words warmed Nathan's chest in an unexpected way. Knowing he had been able to bring some joy into Lily's life made him feel more fulfilled than any billion-dollar deal he had ever closed. The recess bell rang, and Nathan felt his heart quicken. He positioned himself near the door leading to the yard, watching the children come out in noisy, excited groups. Lily was one of the last to appear, as always. She maneuvered her wheelchair with Clara firmly clutched in one arm, heading automatically to her usual spot under the oak tree. Nathan waited until she was settled before approaching. When Lily saw him walking towards her, her face lit up with a smile that was worth every minute he had spent in the toy store. "Nathan, you're back," she exclaimed, her voice full of genuine joy. "I promised I'd be back, didn't I?" he said, approaching and kneeling beside her. "And I brought something special." Lily's eyes widened when she saw the colorful package in his hands. "Is it for me?" "It is. But first, let me explain something very important about this gift." Lily nodded gravely, as if preparing to hear crucial information. Nathan handed her the package carefully. This doll inside has a very serious problem." "A problem?" Lily asked, concerned, but still holding the gift. "Yes. She hates being alone. Really hates it. And she told me she really wants to live with you and Clara." The smile that spread across Lily's face was like watching the sun rise. With small but determined fingers, she began to carefully unwrap the package, as if wanting to preserve every bit of the colorful paper. When the doll finally appeared, Lily gasped in surprise. "She's beautiful." "What will her name be?" Nathan asked. Lily studied the doll for a few moments, gently touching her brown hair and adjusting the lilac dress. "Bella. She looks like a Bella." "Bella is a perfect name." Lily hugged the new doll against her chest, along with Clara. "They're going to be best friends, right, Clara?" she whispered to the old doll, then looked at Nathan. Clara said, "She really likes Bella." Nathan sat on the ground in the same position as the day before. "And what do you three want to do today?" "We can have a tea party. Now we have enough people for a real party." Across the schoolyard, Miss Sarah, Lily's teacher, watched the scene with a delighted smile. She had worked at Willowbrook Elementary for over 15 years and rarely saw a child as isolated as Lily find someone who connected with her so naturally. For almost 40 minutes, Nathan, Lily, Clara, and Bella lived imaginary adventures. They had an elaborate tea party under the oak tree, flew to distant lands where princesses solved important problems, and created stories about friends who never abandoned each other. Nathan discovered that Lily had an extraordinary imagination. She created different voices for each doll, invented complex scenarios for her games, and had a way of seeing the world that was pure magic. Every moment spent there reminded him of parts of himself he had forgotten in the race to success. "Nathan," Lily said during a pause in their play, "why are you so nice to me?" The question caught him off guard. He looked at that small girl, with her swaying braids and her eyes full of genuine curiosity, and realized he didn't have a simple answer. Because you're special, Lily, and everyone deserves to have friends. Even people like me, especially people like you. The bell for the end of recess rang, interrupting the moment. Lily carefully gathered her 2 dolls and prepared to return to the classroom. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked, the same vulnerability from yesterday present in her voice. "I'll think about what I can do to see you again soon," Nathan replied honestly. After Lily rolled away, waving to him as she maneuvered her chair with one hand and held the dolls with the other, Nathan stood for a few minutes under the oak tree. There was something about that girl that stirred him deeply, something that went beyond sympathy or pity. It was as if she had awakened a part of his humanity that he had buried under spreadsheets and meetings. Nathan walked back towards the school building, where he found Mrs. Peterson organizing some papers in her office. "Mrs. Peterson," he said, tapping lightly on the open door. "Nathan, how was recess?" "It was perfect." Lily loved the doll. He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." "Of course, come in and sit down." Nathan remained standing, clearly a little nervous. "Yesterday you mentioned that Lily's father is going through a difficult time. I was wondering, maybe I could help in some way." Mrs. Peterson studied him carefully. "What kind of help?" "I don't know yet. But first I'd like to meet him, talk to him. Is it possible for you to give me the family's address?" The principal hesitated. "Nathan, I appreciate your genuine concern, but I need to protect the privacy of our families." "I understand completely," Nathan interrupted her, "but I promise my intentions are only to help. Lily touched my heart in a way I can't explain. If there's anything I can do to improve her life, I want to try." Mrs. Peterson watched Nathan for a long moment, assessing his sincerity. After 15 years of dealing with parents and guardians, she had developed a keen instinct for detecting true motivations. "Let me think about it," she said finally. "Perhaps I can talk to her father first, to see if he would be willing to meet you. That would be perfect. Thank you very much." As Nathan left the school, his mind was already at work. There was something about Lily's situation that wouldn't leave him alone. Such a special child shouldn't feel like a burden to anyone. And if there was a way he could use his resources to make a difference in her life, he was determined to find out what it was. 2 hours after leaving school, Nathan stood in front of a small apartment complex. The contrast with his world couldn't be greater. While his penthouse offered panoramic views of Manhattan, here the windows looked out onto cramped courtyards and old cars parked on the street. The address Mrs. Peterson had agreed to provide led him to a 3-story building with peeling paint. Number 247B was nailed to a faded blue door on the 2nd floor, accessible by an external staircase that creaked with each step. Nathan climbed slowly, mentally organizing what he would say. It wasn't common for him to make unannounced visits, especially to people who didn't even know he existed. But the image of Lily saying she got in the way wouldn't leave his mind. He knocked on the door 3 times. Heavy footsteps approached, and the door opened just a few inches, held by a security chain. A man appeared in the gap, disheveled brown hair, unshaven, tired eyes carrying the weight of someone who had slept very little. "What do you want?" The voice was rough, suspicious. "My name is Nathan Cross. I met your daughter Lily at school. I'd like to talk to you." Mark studied Nathan through the gap, the expensive suit, the gleaming watch, the confident posture. Everything screamed trouble. In his experience, well-dressed men who showed up at his door always brought bad news. "I'm not interested in buying anything," Mark said, starting to close the door. "I'm not selling anything. I just want to talk about Lily." Something in Nathan's tone made Mark hesitate. There was a sincerity there he didn't expect. Reluctantly, he removed the chain and opened the door. Mark wore a paint-stained white t-shirt and torn jeans. His hands were dirty, and there was an expression of profound exhaustion on his face, the kind of fatigue that goes beyond lack of sleep. "Come in," he said unenthusiastically. The apartment was small and modestly furnished. The living room combined with the kitchen in a single space, where a table was covered with papers, bills, job ads clipped from newspapers, a calculator with numbers still visible. An old but clean sofa occupied the center, and Nathan could see Lily's toys in a corner. "Sorry for the mess," Mark said, gathering some papers. "I wasn't expecting visitors." "Don't worry," Nathan replied. The apartment was simple, but there was an effort to keep it organized. "Thank you for having me." Mark pointed to the sofa. "Sit down. Want some water?" "No need to trouble yourself." Mark sat in the opposite chair, keeping his distance. His crossed arms made it clear that this conversation was unwelcome. "What do you want to talk about, my daughter?" Nathan chose his words carefully. "I met her yesterday at school. I was there to make a donation and ended up talking to her during recess. And she was alone, playing with an old doll, not interacting with other children." Mark clenched his jaw. "Lily is different from other children. It's hard for her to make friends. I understand that, but I talked to her and there's something that worries me." "What kind of concern?" Mark asked, defensively. Nathan took a deep breath. "She told me no one wants to play with her, and then she said something that stuck with me." Mark waited, tension growing in his shoulders. "She said you told her she gets in the way." The words fell like stones. Mark froze, blood draining from his face. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "She said that?" "She did, and from the way she said it, it was clear those words hurt her deeply." Mark stood abruptly, walking to the window. He stood with his back to Nathan, hands clenched into fists. "You don't understand," he said, voice low and tense. "You have no idea what it's like." "Then explain it to me." Mark turned, tears of anger in his eyes. "You want to know what it's like? I wake up at 5 in the morning to work on a construction site. I come home at 6 covered in mud. Then I have to bathe her, make food, help with homework. And after she's asleep, I stay up until dawn looking for other jobs because one job doesn't pay the bills." Nathan listened in silence. "And you know what's harder?" Mark continued, voice breaking. "It's seeing other kids running and knowing my daughter will never be able to do that. It's having to carry her upstairs because not every place has a ramp." "Mark, you show up here in your $1,000 suit wanting to lecture me." Mark interrupted. "Do you think I don't know I've made mistakes? Do you think I don't hate myself for all the times I lost my patience?" Nathan stood up slowly. "I didn't come here to judge you." "Then why did you come?" "Because I saw an incredible girl who feels rejected, and I thought maybe you didn't know how much your words affected her." Mark ran his hands over his face. "Of course I know. Do you think I don't see how she gets? But I'm at my limit, man. I can't do it anymore." "She doesn't need luxury," Nathan said softly. "She just needs you." The words hung in the air. Mark stopped, as if physically struck. He looked at Nathan in surprise, as if he hadn't expected to hear something so simple and true. "It's easy to say that when you have money," Mark murmured, but his voice had lost its aggressiveness. "So it's not about money. I grew up in a 40-room house, but my parents never had time for me. I had everything money could buy, except the most important thing." Which was someone who truly cared about me, someone who looked at me and saw something special. Mark sat down heavily, the weight of months of frustration finally seeming to crush him. "I tried to be a good dad, but since the accident, since we lost her mom, I can't see anything but problems anymore." Nathan felt a pang in his chest. "How long has it been?" 2 years. Lily was 2 years old when it happened. Since then, it's just been me and her, and I don't know how to do this right." "No one does. But she needs to feel that you love her, not that she's a burden." Mark was silent, looking at his dirty hands. When he spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. "I love her more than anything. She's all I have left of my wife. But I'm so tired, so worried about money, so frustrated, that sometimes the words come out wrong." Nathan leaned forward. "She doesn't understand financial frustrations. She only understands that her father, the most important person in her life, said she gets in the way." The words hit Mark like punches. He covered his face, and Nathan could see his shoulders trembling. "I messed up, didn't I? There's still time to fix it." Mark looked at Nathan. "How?" "Starting by telling her that you love her and that she doesn't get in the way at all, that she's actually the best part of your life." "What if it's too late?" Children forgive more easily than adults, especially when they feel that the love is true. Mark was silent, processing everything. Nathan could see an internal struggle between wounded pride, exhaustion, and genuine love for his daughter. "Why do you care?" Mark asked. "You don't even know us." Nathan thought for a moment. "Because Lily reminded me what it's like to feel alone in the world. And because sometimes an outsider can see things that those in the middle of the situation can no longer see." Mark nodded slowly. "She doesn't need luxury," Nathan repeated softly. "She just needs you, your time, your attention, your unconditional love." These words echoed in the silent apartment, penetrating deep into Mark's heart. He didn't answer, but Nathan could see that something had changed in his expression. The words had found their target and now lived within him, demanding a response only he could give. The day after his conversation with Mark, Nathan arrived at Willowbrook Elementary with an idea. The words he had said to Lily's father echoed in his mind, but he knew there might be something more concrete he could do for the girl, something that didn't just depend on her father's change of attitude. He found Miss Sarah organizing materials in her classroom before classes began. "Mr. Cross," she said, surprised. "It's good to see you again." "Actually, I came to talk to you about an idea," Nathan said. "I need your help with something." Miss Sarah stopped what she was doing. "Of course, how can I help?" "I'd like to try something different during recess today. I want to see if we can get some children to play with Lily." The teacher's eyes lit up. "What a wonderful idea. I've tried a few times, but maybe with a different approach it will work." "Exactly. I thought if I invited some children to play with us in a natural way, they might discover how special Lily is." Miss Sarah smiled. "I know some children who would be perfect. Emma is very kind and always helps her classmates. Jake is funny and can make anyone laugh. And there's Sophie, who loves dolls as much as Lily. Perfect. Do you think they'd be up for it?" "I'm sure. I just need to present the idea in the right way." During morning class, Miss Sarah carefully observed the children she had chosen. Emma was helping a classmate with math, confirming her nurturing nature. Jake was making faces to make a shy girl laugh. Sophie was showing a princess drawing to her friends. When the recess bell rang, Miss Sarah approached the three. "Emma, Jake, Sophie, can you come here for a minute?" The children approached, curious. "Do you know Lily from our class?" "The girl in the wheelchair?" Emma asked. "That's right. She's always alone at recess. And today we have a special opportunity. There's a really nice man who's her friend, and he'll be in the yard. How about you go meet him and play all together?" Jake frowned. "But what can we play with her? She can't run." Miss Sarah crouched down to the children's height. "There are many games that don't require running. You can play make-believe, tell stories." "Jake Garn, you're so funny. I'm sure you could make Lily laugh a lot." "She has very beautiful dolls," Sophie said, interested. "I saw her with 2 yesterday." "Exactly, and she loves creating stories with them." "Emma, you're always kind to everyone. And Jake, you can make any game fun." Emma nodded gravely. "We will, Miss Sarah. No one should be alone." "That's right," Jake agreed. "I'll tell her my best jokes. And I can bring my small doll to play too," Sophie added. In the yard, Nathan was already in his usual spot under the oak tree. Lily had positioned herself there with Clara and Bella, telling a story about princesses saving distant kingdoms. "And then Princess Clara used her special magic to make all the flowers grow," she was saying when Nathan approached. "What an amazing story," he said, sitting on the ground. "Princess Clara seems very powerful." "She is, and Princess Bella too. They are best friends and save everyone together." Nathan smiled, but his eyes searched for Miss Sarah and the children in the yard. He saw them slowly approaching. "Lily," Nathan said softly, "how about today some children come and play with us?" Lily's eyes widened. "Other children? But they don't like to play with me." "Maybe they just haven't had the chance to get to know you properly." Before Lily could answer, Emma, Jake, and Sophie approached. "Hi, Lily," Emma said with a smile. "We're from your class. Can I sit here?" Lily looked at Nathan, then at Emma, clearly surprised. "You can," she said softly. Jake plopped down on the ground with energy. "Hi, I'm Jake. Want to hear a joke?" "Do you?" Lily asked, a small smile appearing. Why did the chicken cross the road? Why? To get to the other side, Jake shouted, and started laughing so contagiously that Lily couldn't help but laugh too. Sophie sat down delicately, taking a small doll from her backpack. I brought Marina to play with Clara and Bella. Can they be friends? Lily's eyes sparkled. They can. They'll love meeting Marina. Nathan watched the scene unfold with warmth in his chest. Miss Sarah had chosen the perfect children. Emma naturally took on the role of gentle organizer, suggesting they form a circle. Jake continued telling jokes. Sophie immersed herself in Lily's doll world. At first, there was a palpable shyness. The children weren't sure how to interact, and Lily was clearly nervous, clutching her dolls tightly. But gradually, the magic began to happen. "Let's pretend our dolls are at a party," Sophie suggested. "Yes," Lily exclaimed, more animated. "And they can fly to the party." "Dolls don't fly," Jake said, "but not cruelly." "Ours do," Lily explained patiently. "In imagination. Want to try?" Jake seemed intrigued. "How?" Lily closed her eyes and stretched out her arms, holding Clara. "You close your eyes, imagine you're flying, and then you can go anywhere." To Nathan's surprise, Jake closed his eyes and stretched out his arms too. "Where are we flying to?" "To a castle in the clouds where there's a party with chocolate cake." "I love chocolate cake," Emma shouted, joining the game. Soon all the children worried flying. Even Nathan participated. When they opened their eyes, they were all laughing loudly. "That was amazing," Jake said. "I've never flown before." "Lily is very good at flying," Nathan said. "She taught me too." From that moment on, the dynamic changed completely. The children began to see Lily not as someone different, but as someone with extraordinary imagination and fascinating stories. Emma suggested they play princess school. Jake invented that the dolls were superheroes. Sophie created a magical beauty salon. But it was Lily who shone at the center of it all. Her ability to create complex stories fascinated the other children. She gave different voices to each doll, created elaborate dialogues, and had a way of making any game more interesting. "Now, how do you invent so many stories?" Emma asked, impressed. "I have a lot of time to think," Lily replied honestly, "and Clara and Bella tell me many things." "They talk to you?" Jake asked, fascinated. "In my head. You can hear them if you pay attention." Jake picked up the doll Marina and held her close to his ear. "Marina, are you there?" Lily laughed. "She said you're very funny and she likes your jokes." "Really?" Jake smiled proudly. For 40 minutes, the children created an entire world of adventures. Lily was at the center of everything, not despite her wheelchair, but because her natural imagination made her the leader of the games. Nathan watched with a sense of triumph that surpassed any business success. Seeing Lily laughing, speaking confidently, being accepted and admired was better than closing the biggest deal of his life. When the bell rang, the children protested. "Oh no, is it over already?" Sophie complained. "Can we play again tomorrow?" Emma asked Lily. "You want to?" Lily asked, hardly believing it. "Of course," Jake said. "You tell the best stories. And our dolls can have more adventures," Sophie added. Lily was radiant. "Yes, tomorrow we can pretend they're going to an underwater kingdom." The children said goodbye excitedly, promising to return. Nathan helped Lily organize her dolls. "How do you feel?" he asked. "It's like I'm really flying," she replied, eyes shining. "They really liked me." "Of course they did. You're amazing, Lily." For the first time since he had met her, Nathan saw Lily as she truly was, not a lonely and rejected girl, but a brilliant child with unique gifts that only needed the right opportunity to blossom. In the center of that circle of new friends, she had found her place to shine. The school bus stopped in front of the apartment complex at 4:30 in the afternoon, as usual. But this time, something was different. From the moment the door opened, Lily's excited voice could be heard chatting animatedly with the driver. And then Jake pretended the doll was flying upside down. It was so funny. And Emma said, "I tell stories better than books." The driver, Mr. Williams, smiled as he helped Lily down. In 2 years of driving that girl, he had never seen her so animated. Usually, she traveled in silence, hugging her dolls, looking out the window with that distant expression that broke any adult's heart. "Looks like you had a special day today, little one," he said, positioning the wheelchair. "The best day of my whole life," Lily exclaimed, settling Clara and Bella on her lap. "Tomorrow we're going to play Underwater Kingdom." Lily said goodbye to the driver with an energy he had never seen in her and began to maneuver her chair towards the building. But instead of her usual careful, resigned movement, she was, in some impossible way, bouncing in her chair. It was as if all the joy she had accumulated during the day was overflowing into every movement. She sped up the chair, made small, unnecessary turns, stopped to wave at neighbors who didn't even know her well, all while holding the two dolls against her chest. As she climbed the external stairs, Lily hummed a song she had invented about princesses making magical friends. Her voice echoed through the hallway, filled with a pure happiness that seemed capable of lighting up the entire building. When she reached the door of apartment 247B, she didn't even wait to fully enter before she started talking. "Dad! Dad!" she shouted, pushing the door so hard it hit the wall behind it. Mark came out of the kitchen, where he was trying to fix a leaky faucet that had been dripping for weeks. His hands were greasy, and there was a tired expression on his face, the same old tiredness. But when he saw Lily, something in his expression changed. His daughter was radiant. There was no other word to describe it. Her eyes shone in a way he hadn't seen in so long that he had forgotten what it was like. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, and she gestured with the dolls as if she wanted them to join the conversation too. "Dad, I played with my classmates," she said, the words spilling out in a torrent of enthusiasm. "Nathan called them, and they played with me." Mark stood there, holding the wrench, trying to process what he was hearing. In over 2 years, since Lily had started school, she had never, not once, come home talking about playing with other children. "Emma, Jake, and Sophie," Lily continued, maneuvering her chair closer to him. "And Bella played too. They said my stories are the best ever." She held up Bella, the new doll Nathan had given her. "Bella made friends with Marina, who is Sophie's doll, and Jake learned to fly in imagination. He said he had never flown before." Mark slowly put the wrench on the kitchen counter, without taking his eyes off Lily. There was something mesmerizing about seeing her so happy. It was like watching a wilting flower suddenly blossom again. "And guess what else, Dad?" Lily asked, her eyes shining even brighter. "They want to play with me again tomorrow. Emma said I'm going to be the story leader because I'm the best at it." "Story leader," Mark repeated softly, as if testing the words. "Yes, and Nathan said I'm amazing. He said I have a special gift for inventing adventures." Mark slowly knelt down to Lily's height. Up close, he could see every detail of the happiness on his daughter's face, the tiny wrinkles around her eyes from smiling so much, the glow that seemed to come from within, the way she held her dolls as if they were precious treasures. "Guys, they really played with you?" he asked, his voice softer than it had been in a long time. "Yes, and it wasn't out of pity, Dad. They really liked me. Emma said I'm the most creative person she knows, and Jake wants me to teach him more flying tricks." Lily took Mark's hand with one of hers, still holding the dolls with the other. "Dad, it was the best day of my life. The best day I've ever had." Mark looked at that small hand holding his, so confident, so full of life. When was the last time Lily had voluntarily sought his touch? When was the last time she had shared something good with him? "I'm happy for you, Lily," he said, and realized those were the first genuinely affectionate words he had said to her in weeks. "Are you really happy?" she asked, studying his face with those big, perceptive eyes. Mark felt something constrict in his throat. "I am. You deserve to have friends. And I have them now. I have Nathan, Emma, Jake, Sophie, Clara, and Bella. That's a lot of people." The smile on Lily's face was so pure, so genuine, that Mark felt as if he was seeing his daughter, truly seeing her, for the first time in a long time. Not the child who needed medical care, not the responsibility that overwhelmed him, not the constant reminder of everything he had lost, but simply Lily, an amazing, creative 4-year-old girl full of love to give. "Can I tell you more about the game while you make dinner?" she asked. "Of course," Mark said, standing up. "Tell me everything." And she did. Throughout the entire dinner preparation, simple ham and cheese sandwiches, Lily narrated every minute of recess. How Nathan had organized everything. How the children had been shy at first. How she had taught everyone to fly in imagination. How they had created elaborate stories about the dolls. Mark listened as he cut the bread, as he spread butter, as he poured orange juice into mismatched glasses. And for the first time in a long time, his silence was not one of tiredness, frustration, or irritation. For the first time, Mark's silence was one of emotion. He was moved seeing his daughter so happy. He was moved realizing how special she was, something the other children had discovered in an afternoon, but which he had forgotten amidst all the difficulties. He was moved and, at the same time, completely broken inside, realizing how much time he had wasted seeing only the problems instead of seeing the extraordinary child he had at home. During dinner, Lily continued talking about how kind Nathan was, about how the other children had been interested in the doll stories, about the plans for the next day. Mark listened, asked occasional questions, and watched his daughter eat with an appetite she hadn't shown in weeks. "Dad," she said mid-bite, "do you think Mom would be happy knowing I made friends?" The question hit Mark like lightning. He stopped chewing, looking at Lily. It was rare for her to mention her mother spontaneously. "She would," he said, his voice hoarse. "So she would be very proud of you. I think she was there today, watching. Clara said she felt her nearby during the game." Mark swallowed the lump that had formed in his throat. "Clara said that?" "She did." And Bella agreed. "They are very wise, you know." After dinner, Mark washed the dishes while Lily played in the living room, recreating the day's adventures with her dolls. He could hear her doing the voices of her new friends, incorporating details from the real game into new stories. And then Princess Emma said, "Princess Lily, you are the most creative of all," she was telling the dolls. Around 8 o'clock, when Mark came out of the kitchen, he found a scene that made his heart stop. Lily had fallen asleep on the sofa, still in her school dress, but not in her usual uncomfortable position. She was propped up on the cushions, with a gentle smile on her lips, hugging both dolls. Clara was carefully positioned in her left arm, and Bella in her right, as if even in sleep she wanted to ensure both felt included and loved. Mark approached slowly, observing his daughter's relaxed face. There was a serenity there he hadn't seen in a long time. It was as if all the stress and sadness she carried had dissipated, leaving only the happy child she was by nature. He carefully sat on the edge of the sofa, taking care not to wake her. Up close, he could see details he had failed to notice, the small freckles on her nose, her long eyelashes, the way she held her dolls protectively even while sleeping. The guilt that had been growing inside him since his conversation with Nathan finally overflowed. Here was his daughter, a child of only 4 who had spent the best day of her life simply playing with other children. Something so simple, so basic, but that had been denied to her for so long. And part of the blame was his. Not just for making her feel like a burden, but for failing to see her magic, her creativity, her ability to bring joy to the world. "Faiz, you're just a child," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You're just a child, and I can barely be a father." The words came out as a painful confession. Mark gently ran his hand through Lily's hair, taking care not to wake her. "Your mom would know what to do," he continued whispering. "She would see what I should have seen from the beginning. That you are not a problem to solve. You are a gift. You are all the good that was left of her." Lily stirred slightly in her sleep, clutching the dolls closer to her chest. Mark remained still until he was sure she hadn't woken up. "I'm going to be better," he promised softly. "I don't know how, but I'm going to try to be the father you deserve. The father she wanted me to be." Mark sat there for over an hour, watching Lily sleep, silently promising that he would do everything differently, that he would find a way to be for her what Nathan had been in just a few days, someone who saw her light instead of her limitations. When he finally carried her to her room, carefully placing her in bed and arranging the dolls beside her, Mark felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that it wasn't too late to fix what had been broken. Hope that he could still be the father Lily needed. And hope that the smile she had brought home that day could become permanent in their lives. Mark woke up that morning with a strange feeling. After watching Lily sleep the night before, seeing her so happy, so at peace hugging her dolls, something had changed within him. It was as if a door that had been locked for 2 years had opened a crack. letting in a little light. Breakfast was different. Lily was still radiant from the day before, telling about her adventures with her new friends. But this time Mark really listened, not with forced patience as usual, but with genuine interest. "And today, Emma said we're going to play Underwater Kingdom," Lily explained while eating cereal. "Bella and Clara are going to be mermaid princesses." "Mermaid princesses," Mark repeated, and for the first time in a long time, there was a true smile in his voice. "What an interesting adventure." Lily looked at him in surprise. "Do you really think it's interesting?" "I do." "You have an amazing imagination, Lily." The smile that spread across her face was like sunbeams. Mark felt a pang of something he couldn't identify: pride, regret, perhaps a mixture of both. After Lily went to school, Mark tried to follow his normal routine. He had a painting job at a house 3 neighborhoods away. But throughout the drive, throughout the morning painting walls, his mind was elsewhere. He kept seeing Lily the night before, sleeping so peacefully, hugging her dolls. He kept hearing her excited voice talking about her new friends, and above all, he kept hearing Nathan's words, "She doesn't need luxury. She just needs you." Around noon, Mark called his boss and made up an excuse about not feeling well. It wasn't a lie, he really wasn't well, but not physically. It was something much deeper. He went home and found the apartment silent. He walked through the rooms, seeing everything with different eyes. Lily's toys organized in a corner, the drawings taped to the refrigerator, the small wheelchair next to the table. When was the last time he had truly looked at these things? He approached the refrigerator and studied the colorful papers. There were drawings of princesses with elaborate dresses, drawings of flying animals, and in many of them 2 figures, one big and one small, always holding hands. Mark picked up one of the drawings. The larger figure had brown hair like his, and the smaller one was in a wheelchair, holding a doll. In the corner, in childish letters, "Me and Daddy." He didn't remember Lily showing him this drawing. When had she tried to share this, and he had been too busy to pay attention? Mark sat down heavily, still holding the drawing. For the first time in 2 years, he allowed himself to remember how things used to be. He remembered baby Lily, always smiling. He remembered how Sarah used to say Lily would be a storyteller. "She has an amazing imagination," Sarah used to say. "Watch how she plays. She creates entire worlds in her head." Mark had forgotten that. At 2 in the afternoon, he went out to the small backyard behind the building. It was a shared space and with patchy grass and a shade tree. Normally, he only went there to hang laundry. That's when he saw her. Lily was there, playing alone under the tree. She had come home from school and, instead of staying indoors as usual, had decided to take her dolls outside. Mark stood at the door watching. Lily was sitting on the grass with Clara and Bella arranged in front of her. She was telling them a story, using different voices for each character. And then Queen Clara said, "Princess Bella, we need to save the Deep Sea Kingdom," Lily said, moving the old doll with theatrical gestures. Joyce and Princess Bella replied, "Let's go together. We never leave a friend behind." Mark approached silently and sat on an old plastic chair, just observing. For the first time in a long time, he really looked at his daughter, not as a responsibility, not as a reminder of everything he had lost, but as she truly was. And what he saw left him breathless. He saw a 4-year-old girl with extraordinary creativity, capable of transforming 2 dolls and a patch of grass into epic adventures. He saw someone who, despite all difficulties, had never lost the ability to dream. He saw a child who continued to believe in happy endings. And then, like a lightning bolt hitting his consciousness, Mark saw himself in her. He saw his own brown eyes reflected in hers. He saw the dimples that appeared when she smiled, the same ones Sarah said he had. He saw the way she frowned when concentrating, exactly as he did. But more than that, he saw parts of himself he had forgotten. He remembered when he was a child and spent hours inventing stories about heroes. He remembered how he created entire worlds with sticks and imagination. Lily was him. She was Sarah. She was the best combination of the two, and he had been too blind to see it. "Daddy?" Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Are you okay? You look sad." Mark realized there were tears in his eyes. I'm fine, sweetie. I was just watching you play. Want to play with me? She asked, and there was cautious hope in her voice. When was the last time she had asked that question? How many times had he replied he was busy? I do, he said, standing up. The smile that lit up Lily's face was so pure that Mark felt as if his heart would burst. He sat on the grass beside her, not caring about the dampness. What's the story about? He asked. It's about two princesses who are best friends and save kingdoms together, Lily explained, handing Clara to him. Can you be Queen Clara's voice? She's very wise and brave. Mark took the old doll, feeling the texture of the worn fabric, seeing the patches he had made himself. What should Queen Clara say? She should say something wise about how true friends never give up on each other. Mark looked at his daughter, then at the doll. Princess Bella, he said, trying to make a different voice. True friends stick together always, no matter what. And fathers who love their daughters should never give up on them either. Lily stopped, looking at him with wide eyes. That was a really good line, Daddy. Thank you. Queen Clara sometimes says things that Daddy needs to remember too. They played for almost an hour. Mark discovered he had forgotten how fun it was to use his imagination, how liberating it was to create worlds where everything always worked out. He discovered his daughter had a natural talent for storytelling. When the sun began to set, they went inside together. Mark prepared dinner, but this time he actively participated in Lily's conversations about the day. He asked questions about her new friends, wanted to know details of the games, and laughed when she imitated her classmates' voices. Throughout the evening, while helping Lily with her activities while bathing her, Mark was thinking. Nathan's words had a deeper meaning now. She doesn't need luxury. She just needs you. Not just his physical presence. Lily needed him, his love, his attention, his genuine interest. She needed a father who saw her light instead of her limitations, and Mark knew he needed to apologize. Around 9 o'clock, after Lily had brushed her teeth and chosen which book she wanted him to read, something they hadn't done in months, she settled into bed with Clara and Bella on each side. Daddy, she said, as he adjusted the blanket, today was almost as good as yesterday. Why? Because you played with me and you seemed really happy. Mark felt his heart ache. So I was happy, very happy. Are you going to play with me again tomorrow? I am, whenever you want. Lily smiled and closed her eyes. Good night, Daddy. Good night, my love, Mark said, kissing her forehead. He left the room, but couldn't focus on anything. He walked around the apartment, organizing things that didn't need organizing, trying to find the courage to do what he knew he needed to. Around 10:30, Mark went back to Lily's room. She was sleeping soundly, breathing softly, with the dolls positioned on each side. He knelt beside the bed, taking care not to make a sound. In the past 2 years, he had avoided these moments. Seeing Lily sleeping always reminded him of Sarah. But today he needed to be there. He needed to say the words that were burning inside him. Lily, he whispered, believing she was deeply asleep. I need to tell you something. She didn't stir, and Mark took a deep breath. It was that day. The accident, he began, his voice breaking. Your mum was gone. And I was so lost, so angry, so scared, that I started to see you as the rest of it all, as part of the tragedy, instead of seeing you as you truly are. Tears began to flow. But it's not fair. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to her memory, because you're not part of the tragedy, Lily. You're the best part of it. You're all the good she left in the world. Mark paused to control his voice. I said horrible things. I made you feel like you were a burden, when in fact you are the only good thing in my life. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for being such a bad dad. It was then he heard a soft noise. Mark looked and saw that Lily had opened her eyes. She was looking at him with those big, serious eyes. Lily, I always waited for you to come back, she said softly, her voice clear in the darkness. Not home. To me. The words hit Mark like a slap. Lily slowly sat up in bed, still holding Clara. I knew you were sad about Mom, she continued, and I knew I reminded you of her in a way that hurt. But I always hoped that one day you would look at me and see me again. Mark was crying openly now. Will you forgive me? For all the bad things I said? For being so distant? Lily stretched out her small arms to him. I already had, Daddy. Mark leaned in and hugged her, feeling as if he was hugging his daughter for the first time in 2 years. She was so small, so fragile, but there was a strength in her that surprised him. I love you, he whispered in her ear. I love you so much, and I'm sorry it took me so long to show it properly. I love you too, Daddy, and Mom loves you too. Clara told me. They held each other for a long time in the dark room, with only the hallway light softly illuminating the space. And Mark felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years, peace. The wound that had opened on the day of the accident, the wound that had poisoned his relationship with Lily, that had turned love into resentment, was finally beginning to heal. It wouldn't be quick, and it wouldn't be easy, but it was beginning, and that was the first step to becoming a real family again. A week had passed since the night Mark and Lily finally reconnected. It was 7 days of small changes that, together, began to transform the atmosphere of apartment 247B. Mark woke up earlier to have breakfast with Lily, listened to her stories about her new friends at school, and every night they played together for at least an hour before bedtime. But the financial reality still weighed on Mark like a dark cloud. He had lost a day of work to stay home and reflect, and that meant less money at the end of the month. Bills kept coming, and the painting and construction jobs were uncertain and poorly paid. It was a Thursday morning when the phone rang. Mark was helping Lily put on her backpack when he saw an unknown number on the screen. Hello? Mark? This is Nathan Cross. I hope I'm not bothering you. Mark paused mid-movement. Since Nathan's visit to the apartment, they hadn't talked. Nathan, no, you're not bothering me. I'd like to talk to you in person, if possible. There's something I want to discuss. Mark felt a pang of concern. Did something happen to Lily at school? No, Lily is great. In fact, that's what I want to talk about. Would you have time to meet this afternoon? Mark looked at Lily, who was finishing arranging her dolls in her backpack. I have a job today, but I can cancel. Don't cancel for my sake. How about we meet after you pick Lily up from school? I can stop by your apartment around 5. Sure, is everything really okay? Everything's great, Mark. See you soon. Mark hung up the phone with a strange feeling in his stomach. Nathan sounded different on the phone. There was a contained excitement in his voice that he couldn't decipher. The rest of the day passed slowly. Mark worked on a bathroom renovation, but his mind was divided between worrying about what Nathan wanted to talk about and his usual anxiety about money. The job would only pay half of what he needed for the month's bills. At 4:30, Mark was at the school waiting for Lily. When she came out, she was accompanied by Emma, Jake, and Sophie, all chatting animatedly about a new adventure they had created for the dolls. Dad, Lily exclaimed upon seeing him. You're early. I am. How was your day? Amazing. We created a kingdom where mermaid princesses teach little fish to fly, and tomorrow we're going to continue the story. Mark smiled, watching as the other parents greeted their children. There was a naturalness in those interactions that he was learning to imitate. What a fantastic story. Nathan came today too, Lily said, as they walked to the bus stop. He said he's coming to our house later. Oh, really? Did you talk? We did. He said he's very happy because you and I are playing together now. He said we look like a real family. Mark felt something constrict in his chest. A real family. That's what they were becoming again, wasn't it? They arrived home at 5 sharp, and Nathan was already waiting in the parking lot. He was wearing more casual clothes today, jeans and a light blue shirt, but still looked completely out of place in that environment. Nathan! Lily shouted from the bus window, waving enthusiastically. Nathan smiled and waved back. When Mark and Lily got off, he approached. How are you two? We're good, Mark replied, still trying to decipher the expression on Nathan's face. Want to come up? Sure. In the apartment, Lily immediately began telling Nathan about the day's adventures at school, while Mark prepared coffee. He observed the interaction between the two. There was a genuine connection there, a mutual affection that went beyond sympathy. Nathan, Lily said, showing a drawing she had made. This is you, me, and Daddy, flying together to the Cloud Kingdom. Nathan studied the drawing carefully. It's perfect, Lily. Can I keep it? You can. I'll make another one just like it for Daddy. After Lily went to her room to play with her dolls, Nathan and Mark sat at the small kitchen table. Mark served coffee in mismatched mugs, feeling uncomfortable with the formality of the situation. Mark, Nathan began, his hands wrapped around the mug, I want to talk about an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? Nathan took a deep breath. In the last few days, I've been thinking a lot about you and Lily, about the financial situation you're facing, about how that affects the time you can spend with her. Mark stiffened. Nathan, if you're offering charity, it's not charity, Nathan interrupted softly. It's a job, a real job. Mark frowned. What kind of job? My company is expanding its operations here in the city. I need someone to manage maintenance and small renovations in our offices. It's a job that requires skills you already have: painting, repairs, coordinating small construction projects. Mark listened in silence, trying to process the information. The salary is competitive, Nathan continued. Much better than the temporary jobs you've been doing. But the most important part is that I want to offer you a job with flexible hours, so you can live with dignity and have time for your daughter. The words hung in the air. Mark looked at Nathan, trying to understand if he had heard correctly. Flexible hours. You would primarily work during Lily's school hours. Free mornings to take her to school, free afternoons to pick her up, free weekends. Emergencies only when absolutely necessary, and always with extra compensation. Mark felt as if the world had stopped. Why are you doing this? Nathan looked towards the room where Lily was playing, his voice softening. Because I saw what you two have together. I saw how she glows when she talks about you, and I saw how you've changed in the last week. You deserve the chance to build that connection without the constant pressure of financial problems. Nathan, this is very generous, but it's not generosity, Mark. It's an investment. You have skills I need, and I have resources that can make a difference in your lives. It's a partnership. Mark ran his hands over his face, trying to organize his thoughts. What would the salary be? Nathan mentioned a number that made Mark stop breathing for a moment. It was almost 3 times what he could earn with temporary jobs, and that was working fewer hours. Are you serious? Mark asked, his voice almost a whisper. Completely serious. And there are benefits too. Health insurance for both of you, food vouchers, and a fund for medical emergencies. Mark felt his eyes filling with tears. In 2 years, since the accident, he had constantly fought against financial despair. There were nights when he stayed awake calculating bills, trying to decide whether to pay for electricity or buy food. And now? Miss, why? He asked again. Why are you doing this for us? Nathan smiled. Because Lily taught me something I had forgotten, that what truly matters in life can't be bought with money. You both gave me something invaluable. You reminded me what family, connection, true love mean. Now I want to give back. Mark was silent for a long moment, absorbing everything. Then, slowly, he extended his hand. I accept, he said, his voice choked with emotion. Nathan shook his hand, smiling. Great, you can start on Monday. Nathan, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just be the father Lily deserves. That you both deserve to be. Mark abruptly stood up and went to the window, trying to control the tears that threatened to spill. Maybe I never had much, he said, his voice broken by emotion. But now I have what matters most. Her. Nathan approached and placed a hand on Mark's shoulder. And now you both will have the chance to enjoy that without worrying about the rest? Lily appeared at the bedroom door at that moment, carrying Clara and Bella. Why is Daddy crying? She asked, concerned. Mark knelt down and opened his arms to her. These are happy tears, my love. Daddy got a new job, a good job. Really? Lily's eyes lit up. Does that mean you'll be less tired? It means I'll have more time to spend with you, Mark said, hugging her. And more time to play. Much more time to play. Lily smiled and looked at Nathan. Thank you for helping my daddy. Nathan knelt beside them. Thank you for teaching me what truly matters, Lily. The following Monday, Mark started his new job. Nathan's company office was only 20 minutes from home, and the environment was completely different from anywhere he had ever worked. People were respectful, the work was interesting, and for the first time in years, Mark felt professionally valued. But the real change happened at home. With predictable hours and a stable salary, Mark found that he could be the father he had always wanted to be. He woke up early to prepare a special breakfast for Lily, pancakes on weekends, funny-shaped scrambled eggs during the week. He took her to school every morning, talking about their plans for the day. "Dad," Lily said one of those mornings as they walked to school, "did you know Emma said you're the most smiling dad ever?" "Smiling?" Mark laughed. "And what did you say?" "That you weren't like that before, but now you remember to be happy." The words hit Mark in an unexpected way. Remember to be happy. That's exactly what it was. He had forgotten how to be happy, and Lily had helped him remember. Afternoons became Mark's favorite time. He would pick Lily up from school, and they always stopped at the small park on the way home. Lily had made friends with other children, besides Emma, Jake, and Sophie, and Mark watched with pride as she became popular for her creativity and kindness. "Dad, look!" Lily shouted one of those afternoons, pointing to the adapted swing that had been installed in the park. "Can I go?" "Of course you can." Mark helped her transfer from her chair to the swing and began to push her gently. Lily's laughter echoed through the park, pure and contagious. "Higher, Dad. I want to really fly." "Hold on tight then." And there, pushing his daughter on the swing, seeing her laugh and feel the wind on her face, Mark realized that this was the happiest moment he had lived in years. Evenings also changed completely. Instead of collapsing exhausted on the sofa after a hard day's work, Mark had energy to have dinner with Lily, help her with homework, and spend at least an hour playing before bed. "What story are we going to create tonight?" he would ask every evening. "One where a father and daughter are adventurers exploring distant planets," Lily would reply one night. "Try one where we are detectives solving magical mysteries." On another, and Mark discovered that he had a talent for inventing stories as much as his daughter. Together, they created elaborate worlds where anything was possible, where problems always had solutions, and where father and daughter always ended up together and happy. The apartment also changed physically. With the new salary, Mark was able to buy some new furniture, a larger table for the kitchen where they could eat together comfortably, a bookshelf for Lily's books and drawings, fresh paint for the walls. But the most significant change wasn't visible. It was the atmosphere. The constant tension that had permeated that space for 2 years had disappeared. In its place, there was lightness, laughter, spontaneous conversations. "Do you know what I like most about our new home?" Lily asked one night, as Mark helped her brush her teeth. "Our new home," Mark smiled. "It's still the same house, Lily." "No, it's not. Before it was just a house where we lived. Now it's a home where we live." Mark stopped brushing and looked at his daughter in the mirror. "And what's the difference?" "In a house where you just live, you're sad and tired. In a house where you live, you're happy and play a lot." Mark knelt to her height. "And do you prefer our home where we live?" "Much more." "And you?" "Much more too." That night, after Lily fell asleep peacefully with Clara and Bella on each side, Mark sat in the living room and looked around. The apartment was the same, but Lily was right. Now they lived there, not just existed. Affection had returned to that home. Not forced affection or guilt disguised as care, but something real, visible, and light. It was in Lily's spontaneous smiles, in the way she ran to hug him when he came home from work, in the conversations that extended through dinner. It was in the way Mark had started singing in the shower again, how he laughed at Lily's silly jokes, how he woke up in the morning eager to see what adventure they would create together. And for the first time since the accident, Mark looked to the future and saw possibilities instead of just obstacles. He saw a daughter growing up happy and confident. He saw a small but complete family. He saw a new beginning that, finally, felt real and lasting. 3 months had passed since Mark started working with Nathan. It was a sunny Friday at Willowbrook Elementary, and the same schoolyard that had once been the scene of Lily's loneliness now echoed with her laughter. Under the oak tree that had previously witnessed only whispered conversations with Clara, there was now a circle of children. Lily was at the center, no longer isolated but surrounded by Emma, Jake, Sophie and other children who had joined the group. And then the mermaid princess taught all the fish to fly, Lily recounted, holding Bella and gesturing animatedly. And the underwater kingdom became the kingdom of possible dreams, Miss Sarah observed from the school door with a proud smile. Lily's transformation had been the most beautiful she had ever witnessed. The girl who arrived at recess carrying loneliness was now the center of creativity and joy. "How do you always come up with these stories?" Emma asked, fascinated. "It's because she has real magic," Jake declared. "Special people make everyone special too," Lily smiled, hugging Bella. "Taz, it's because when you have real friends, stories become much more interesting." The bell rang, and the children said goodbye, promising to continue the story the next day. Lily maneuvered her chair to Mark, radiant. "Dad, you won't believe the adventure we created today." Later, it was a typical Saturday afternoon in the backyard of the apartment complex. The autumn sun filtered through the oak leaves where the children had gathered for another storytelling session. Mark watched from the small second-floor balcony, leaning on the railing with a calm smile on his face. There was something magical about seeing Lily like this, so confident, naturally the center of attention, transforming a simple afternoon into an epic adventure. His daughter had completely changed. The security she now radiated was a result of the renewed love between them and the certainty that she had her place in the world. "Today," Lily announced to the group, "we're going to create the story of the family of united hearts." "What's it about?" Sophie asked. "Hey, it's about people who start out alone, but then discover they can form a chosen family." Mark smiled, recognizing elements of his own journey and his daughter's creativity. It was then he heard familiar footsteps on the stairs. Nathan appeared, carrying his usual bag of treats. "I hope I'm not interrupting your storytelling afternoon," Nathan said, though he knew he was always welcome. "Nathan," the chorus of children's voices echoed from the backyard. "Never," Mark replied. "What surprise did you bring today?" Nathan smiled. "Something special, but first..." He held up the bag. "Ice cream for everyone." The children gathered around Nathan as he descended. Lily arrived first, always curious. "I also brought this," Nathan said, taking out a small box with holes. "Remember the story about magical birds?" He carefully opened the box, revealing 2 small parakeets, one blue and one green. "They're real," Anna exclaimed. "And they're ours?" Lily asked, hardly believing it. "They belong to the whole family," Nathan said, looking at Mark. "What are we going to name them?" Mark asked, seeing Lily's bright eyes. "Hope and joy, because that's what you brought into our lives." For 2 hours, the children played in the backyard. Lily's stories gained new characters, wise birds that helped heroes. Nathan naturally participated in the games, no longer as a visitor, but as an essential part of that creative universe. When the other children were called home, only the 3 remained, Mark, Nathan and Lily, watching the sunset while Hope and Joy chirped softly. "Dad," Lily said, nestled between the 2 men, "do you remember when I used to be alone under the tree at school?" "I remember," Mark replied softly. "Now I have so many friends that sometimes I can't even play with all of them on the same day." Nathan laughed. "That's a very good problem to have." "It really is. And guess what else?" Lily looked at both of them. "I think Mom sent you to us, Nathan, to take care of us." Mark felt his eyes well up, but they were tears of gratitude. "Now we're a real family," Lily continued, "small but full of love." The sun had set when they went inside for dinner. Nathan helped Mark prepare a special meal, while Lily arranged a little spot for the birds. "They're going to love living here," she said. "They'll have many stories to hear." When Nathan prepared to leave, Lily insisted on showing him the drawing she had made. A large family with 2 male figures, a girl in a wheelchair, 2 dolls, and 2 birds, all under a rainbow. "This is us," she explained. "Our chosen family. It's the most beautiful family I've ever seen," Nathan said, moved. After Nathan left, Mark and Lily sat on the small balcony. The birds chirped softly, and Lily hugged Bella, content. "Dad," she said, "today at school, Miss Sarah asked me what my biggest dream was." "And what did you answer?" "That my biggest dream had already come true. That I had a family that loves me, friends who like my stories, and a place where I can be happy. Mark kissed the top of her head. And you really have all that? And you too, right, Dad? I do, my love. I have everything. That night, Mark put Lily to bed along with Clara and Bella, while Hope and Joy chirped softly. The house was full of life, of love, of possibilities, and at the center of it all was Lily, no longer the lonely girl from the schoolyard, but a radiant child surrounded by love, a girl who had transformed loneliness into friendship, sadness into joy. Outside, the stars shone over the apartment complex, and inside, a small but complete family slept in peace. A small family, healed, alive, and among them a friend who saw what almost no one else did and stayed. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.